Hello everyone. Before we move forward, let's pause to reflect on the work you submitted for Expression of Experience 2. Now, what I saw across the board in your writing was honest, personal, and deeply connected to the core issue Swartz raises, and that is how motivation is shaped, or distorted, by assessment. It is the instrumentalization of education. You brought in stories about sticker charts, reading quizzes, candy incentives, rigid online programs, and multiple choice tests that measured recall but shut down creativity. One of you described how a platform like iReady encouraged you to work for candy rather than comprehension. Another shared how you used to love reading until it became something you were graded on. While others told stories about feedback that finally made learning feel, well, human again. Now, all of these reflections, and in all of these reflections, you were doing the real work. You were connecting how you felt as a student to what you were going to do as a teacher. And that's a shift that most educators never fully make, but you're starting to lay the groundwork to do that now. So let's zoom out and look at the big picture. As of now, you've completed 3 major assignments, and each has helped you explore assessment from a different angle. In Expression of Experience 1, you read James Allen and challenged the validity of grades. What do they actually measure, and whether they serve students or if they serve systems. In Applied Learning 1, you use Simon Sinek's Just Cause framework to design assessments that are resilient, inclusive, and service-oriented. That means an assessment with purpose. And this directly challenged the framework from which Allen had operated on. And now we're in Expression of Experience 2, where you've just read Barry Schwartz and explored how assessment impacts motivation, both positively and negatively. Now, these 3 assignments are not separate. They form a progression. First, you asked, what do grades communicate and to whom? Then you asked, what should assessments do? Should they be inclusive? Should they be service-oriented? Should they be resilient, and why? And finally, we just reflected on how students experience those assessments as far as shaping their motivation and willingness to engage. All of this is building towards one outcome: a personal, professional, and philosophical foundation for you to design assessments moving forward. By now, you should have been developing your own working answer to each of these questions. What is the purpose of assessment, and who is it for? Who is the audience, and what does it communicate? You also want to be looking at questions such as, how does assessment affect student motivation? And how can I design it and apply it to work in ways that I want? All of these questions will develop a philosophy that drives everything you build here for moving forward. So make sure you have a really strong framework to build upon. And this leads us to one of the most revealing moments of the semester. If you notice in your Expression of Experience 2 feedback, I asked you to think about developmental alignment. And to do that, I was challenging you to draw on what you learned in developmental psychology. Here I wrote down a developmental chart with various developmental theorists and the work that they have, and I also included some neuropsychology in the mix as well. But here's the hard truth. Some of you may not have been able to name a single theorist, let alone their ideas, if I would have not laid them out in that chart. You wouldn't have known Piaget and sensory motor, all the way up to formal operations. You wouldn't have understood the 8 stages of Erickson, understanding how trust versus mistrust can shape a classroom, or how identity versus role confusion is so important in middle school. You wouldn't understand Kohlberg. And while he uses the idea of moral development, I'm going to call it motivational development because it aligns, right? And so even though you've already taken developmental psych class and all of you have covered them, right? Your lesson plans and everything you write forward should now be developmentally aligned correctly. All of those theorists and all those ideas I should see infused within your lesson plan, within your format, within your structure, right? But this begs a question. How can you align your lesson plans developmentally if you do not understand the difference between concrete and formal operations? Or conventional and post-conventional morality? Are the neurological differences between a 6-year-old brain and a 16-year-old brain, right? If you can't remember what you were taught in developmental psychology and your other courses, how would you ever be able to apply it to improve learning going forward, to improve your lesson plans, to make sure that they are developmentally aligned, right? Now, this isn't a grading critique. It's not its purpose to critique other classes necessarily. What it is a learning critique. And Schwartz most likely would call this out, right? So reflect on that. Because if you don't remember or apply this developmental knowledge that you should have built, it suggests something deeper. That the courses you have taken may have been just another system to navigate, a course to pass, not something to carry forward, and not a foundation for learning. And this is the exact problem we're trying to solve in education. You are not here to play the game of school. You are here to disrupt it, to teach differently, and to learn differently. So starting now, what I expect from you is to use what you have learned. Not because it's on the rubric, but because it's essential to creating your students' experience, right? And that's what it's really all about. So looking ahead, your 3 assignments so far has given you something incredibly rare. It has given you a space to build a belief system around assessment that aligns with what you view, right? Not a checklist, not a test, not a product, but a philosophical framework for which you can design assessment. One that connects fairness, motivation, developmental feedback, theory, purpose, and student voice. And now you should be ready to build. And that's going to bring us to our next assignment, which is applied learning 2. This is where it's going to start coming together. You'll take your beliefs, your ideas, your critiques, and you're going to turn them into a real, aligned, developmentally appropriate lesson plan and assessment. But before we get there, sit a little bit with what you've already written and learned, because it matters. And it's already reshaping the kind of teacher that you're becoming and one that you hope to be. So let's keep going, and we will explore Apply Learning 2 in the next video I create. Have a good day.